It's time for a lot of us to leave these black girls alone. The way a lot of us are responding to Hallie, Sky Jackson, and even Kiki Palmer about their baby daddies or the father of their children, we have placed this idea of what they are supposed to be. And we have to remember that every decision that they make is their decision, no matter if it's wrong or right. It is their decision. And I feel like my generation, we are doing the same thing that our parents did to us. And we need to let the misogynoir of it all go. Let's talk about it.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the black V-neck
on. What's going on, you all? This responds to Sky Jackson, Hallie, and even Kiki Palmer. Like, y'all, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Folks asked me to talk about it and give my thoughts. One, I don't really pay attention to Sky Jackson like that. She is a very young black girl. She's so young that even the shows that she was in, I didn't watch. I didn't even know they existed, to be honest. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of people my age and older give commentary on these black girls constantly. And it's a little tiring. And seeing how folks are talking about these women and how they are with trash men and that these men are like garbage and like all of these, like, what's going on? Like, somebody even made a joke and said, like, it's the light skinned men. And I feel like,
well, sort of, kind of.
Maybe we can have a conversation about that. Some people have even argued that these girls have been so sheltered that they are fetishizing thugs. Someone was talking about how Hallie used to be on her live streams with Chloe and how she said that she wanted a thug. And she ended up with DDG, who isn't a thug, but he has the quote unquote characteristics of a thug. And let's be honest, these girls, how we seen them, how we have consumed them on these shows and these movies, we want them to be our BAPs. We want them to be our black American princesses. We want them to perform whiteness. And yeah, you might say, you know, they need to be professional. They need to do this and that. Like, they just don't need to be caught up in all the other stuff. Like, it's not a black thing and black stuff is not associated with ghetto, But yeah, because these black girls who we have, you know, given so much attention to, they have been quote unquote role models for a lot of black girls. They have been role models for a lot of people. Like, to see this black girl be successful and, you know, do her thing, like, our ideas of these black girls are things that we have been consuming in our own heads. Like, they have been playing characters. They have been playing characters, and some of them have stayed out of the public eye for as long as they could. But now they are adults making their own decisions, whether it's, you know, having a child before marriage or, you know, getting with a man and finding out that he's trash and just, you know, not being with him no more, getting back with him. Like, these women can make their own decisions. Even I have engaged in some of the conversations. We're all somewhat guilty of it. Even as recently me talking about Kiki Palmer's like baby daddy, and that, you know, a lot of folks were seeing the signs and how he responded to her on social media and, you know, how he was disrespectful. The same thing with Hallie. Hallie has been in the conversation because DDG has essentially used the child as a prop, showing up to Kai Cenat's live stream with the baby in a purse, and knowing what that looks like. Like, hey, this is not a prop. But I think some folks not gonna like this. I feel like a lot of people be using kids as props, and a lot of everyday folks use kids as props as well. I see it a lot. That is a conversation I feel like that we can have more, and how we are quick to put cameras in children's face, children who cannot consent, and how we use their likeness and visibility. We see that now with Diddy and how he has essentially told his kids to post more pictures and videos and things to garner more sympathy and make him look like a family man. There is so much around that look of a specific type of family, the nuclear family of it all. And a lot of Black folks have talked about how whiteness is in the idea of the nuclear family, because for a lot of Black folks, the family was like community. And it wasn't like this idea of like mom, dad, da, da, da. It's like, it's more deeper than that. We are community based, but because of colonialism, Christianity, and people's interpretation of Christianity, this is what it's supposed to be. Like, this is the idea of that. And we see that even in how like our family, our parents and stuff respond to us, and how, hey, I'm supposed to be a grandmother, I'm supposed to be a granddad. We saw a report, an article from the New York Times that older, parents were talking about not being grandparents and how they're saddened by that. And they feel some type of way about their children not having any kids, because that is what's been taught. It is more the idea of having a grandchild than the grandchild itself. Like, we like to be able to say it, but when that grandchild is able to communicate and express their feelings, we have to tone that down. Like, you can't do this, you have to do that. Like, you're a boy, you're supposed to do that, you're not supposed to do like that shit. So for a lot of folks who say they want kids, even going so far of how we want children to be quote unquote healthy, we need to reevaluate how we see children, because a lot of folks don't want to admit it, but how they talk about their children and how they want their children to be is like based in a lot of shit. And I'm not gonna get into too much, but how we talk about like what is healthy. And I get, healthy, but it's like, if you want a child, you want a child. Like, you want a child. I'm not going to get into that too much, because I already know I'm stirring the pot a lot for a lot of folks, but I think people need to reevaluate how they see children. And a lot of folks do use children as pets. And DDG in that moment was using that child like as a joke, as a prop, and it was disgusting. And Halle had every reason to be upset. I don't care what folks are saying, like, she can't be too mad. She had a picture of him while she was working out and all the other stuff. That's not the same thing. Even in that moment, Kai was dealing with maybe a prank or something, somebody trying to beat the door down and come in the house while he was in there. And DDG said, hey, bro, let me get me and my child out of here. Like, even DDG was uncomfortable in that moment. Like, he didn't want to be in that situation. Kai Cenat is famous for being a troll and doing all these goofy things. This is not an environment that a child needs to be in, point blank, period. Point blank, period. Now, there could be a conversation, I don't know, I know y'all like to fight, about like how we look at people we're having children with. Like, we need to understand who we are having kids with, because we are doing a little bit of a disservice to our children, to the potential children that are being brought into this. We were not like understanding that this person has to be more than just attractive. They have to be more than just that. Like, if you're creating a child with him, you need to be able to feel that this person that you're having a child with, that y'all are still able to be together while being separated for the benefits of this child. If it's only good when y'all are together, that's not enough. Like, you need to understand this person is such a loving person that even when y'all are not together, y'all both have the interest of the child to like at heart. And a lot of folks will say that, I protect my child. And it's just like, no, you're giving us a version of what you see as protection, not actual protection. Because protection isn't going to a place and then waiting until the situation gets messy to decide to want to leave. Like, I want to be a dad now. You should have been in a situation where you understood that this place is not a place that a child needs to be in a tote bag.
Thing I don't like when people do, I don't like when people hate on Halle. I don't care if people think she wrong or not, or if I think she wrong or right. She could be going through something mentally after having a kid that I can't understand as a man. So when situations like this happen, I try to handle it with as much grace as possible, because Halo needs her. I need her. We need each other to create a childhood that's safe and fun and memorable for him.
If anything, DDG is manipulative as hell. Like his response to Halle when she came on Twitter talking her like, you know, how she felt, DDG said, you know, he didn't like how folks were responding to Halle and how they were treating her and like he wouldn't put his child in a specific situation and He was just basically saying stuff like he was a good dad and all the other stuff. Like even as going far as him saying that he wants more kids, but he don't want it with another like woman. Like all these men sound like that man with the Mad Hatter football player, Cameron Coon Newton. Ooh, a lot of our men, child. We got to turn the microphones off and unplug the TVs. Unplug the PlayStations too, because they're getting too much red pill like commentary from like it's bad. It is bad. I might need to step in with my little cousin because it's getting bad out here. But yeah, like how he responded to Halle was very manipulative and all the other stuff, like trying to get sympathy points and all that. Like, girl, how you were treating Halle, how you were responding to her and saying things and using y'all relationship as a prop for like jokes and reaction. Like it was just trash. It's trash. It was trash. And you know, even with Keke Palmer's like, you know, father of her child, like how he was responding to her being at the Usher concert and all that. Like these men have been embarrassing these women, and what's messed up is the women get the heat more than the men do. And yes, we do need to be doing a better job of like understanding the person who we're having children with. Like all of us, even for folks who are in quote unquote healthy marriages and healthy relationships now, how does your partner feel about these things about a child when they become an adult, when they become able to communicate their feelings and express themselves? Because no shade, a lot of folks are in whole like relationships with folks who are like deeply homophobic, like bad. I, you know too many people like that. And I've even experienced that in myself and had to grow up in a household that was unfortunately homophobic. And people like, again, need to understand that the child is not always going to be a child. They're going to be able to express themselves, but we want to be able to have control over everything that they do. The same way that people love puppies, but when they become dogs, unless they're properly trained, they ain't fucking with them. Like how we see these things as more like control and me being able to do the things and make you do the I like. I saw a question that made a lot of sense. What work are you doing in your community that is helping like Black women now? For folks who do care, because a lot of these celebrities, they have more care than the average person. Like Keke Palmer will be fine. She paid. One thing about it, she stays booked. Sky Jackson, you know, she don't get booked as much, but she, you know, has a loving mother and, you know, a decent support system. She will be fine. And also Halle, who has a very loving sister in the family, like they're going to be there for them. But what about the women who have kids with them when they're going to grocery stores or even a retail store? And some of us are turning our nose up at the kids because, you know, they don't have a haircut or their hair ain't done or they're out with, you know, not a jacket or a shirt on, all the other stuff. How are we responding and helping folks in our community that need the help? Yes, you walking up to a random parent and giving counsel is not a good idea. But what are you doing to start initiatives and help folks in your community that are suffering? Because childcare is expensive. It is extremely expensive. And a lot of people are struggling with that. Like, you know, was just watching a report on CNBC that white women were spending a lot of money on childcare. Like they can't afford it. They're getting comfortable with the idea of living in a multi-generational home so they can have that support because things are expensive. And that's something that, you know, minority communities have been doing for the longest. Like that's how they support one another. So how can we show up for these women that need help instead of like, you know, feeling good by the things we're saying about these celebrities and all the other stuff? Like how are we showing up for the girls who are in need? But I do think that a lot of our responses and how we talk about Sky Jackson, Halle, Keke Palmer and some of the other girls, these black girls, is that we hold them to a higher standard. And the moment that they deviate from that, we become fearful of how blackness is perceived. We become embarrassed. We become embarrassed by these black women, quote unquote, being the baby mama. We are not in a community with these folks. We are not friends with these people. These are human beings who have jobs and work in an industry that makes movies, TV shows, and all that for entertainment. They work in entertainment. And I think that, again, our parasocial relationships to them, and also mixed with misogynoir, how we consume them and how we want to see them, is how we critique them. How we want to say it's a critique, but it's not really a critique at all. You having a way of what you think a Keke Palmer should live her life, even a Halle, like how she should be, like why are they choosing these trash men? And it's like, if we want to talk about how these women get in these situations, we're going to have a lot of more uncomfortable conversations. Because for these very few cases of black girls who are celebrities and work in entertainment dealing with these situations, if we are really interested in having a conversation about these things that they are experiencing, we're going to have to really get uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, we're going to have to really start questioning cis hetero patriarchy. We're going to have to move beyond some of these things that we're saying. It's way deeper than just trash, baby daddies, da da da. It is how we project these things and we keep these things going. We want to separate these things and not realize that all this stuff is connected. Like, we want to separate it, pull this off, but it's like, girl, yeah, if you pull this off, girl, she coming with her too. Like, so we're really not going anywhere because this thing is still here. It's not being pulled off. It's stuck together because it's all a product of itself. Like, hello? But, you know, like, leave these girls alone. Leave these black girls alone. Especially my generation. My question is it really necessary for us to have this never-ending discussion about these black girls and their relationships based off of our parasocial relationships to them? Is it necessary? No, it's not. Let it go.